Good morning, friends. Welcome to Lake Okanagan this morning. Finally outside.
Isn't it glorious?
Enjoying beautiful sunshine, beautiful day, and just taking in this amazing place that we live. And I'm sorry to say, I feel like sometimes we make too much of a deal of it, but we will be talking about it for the next 6 to 8 months of how beautiful it is and how wonderful it is and how non-Alberta it is. And
I kind of understand that talking about weather is a little bit of a Canadianism. That there's something, I don't know if it's, people have told me it's uniquely Canadian in that we always talk about the weather. And I don't know if that's true. Or if we just think we're special in that way. But
I think it's because there's something to talk about. Because like, if you're living right at the equator, what are you going to say? No, another sunny day.
That's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. Like, oh yeah. You know, we think wait a while and the weather will change. Some places it's like.
Yeah, like the only difference I feel like is it going to be 40 degrees today or is it going to be 50 degrees today? We don't know. But anyways, we're happy to be outside. I feel like it's been a long time coming, but we're here, just the two of us. Jeff is on holidays this week, and we bless him on his way in that. And he's kind of probably spending a lot of time outside. Just enjoying this place as well too, and being with his family. But we want to kind of look back and just see what God has been kind of challenging us with, and then looking forward and kind of reminding us of some stuff. And I'm going to throw it out there. It's probably stuff you already know about, but we're gonna remind you of it anyways. But looking back at this last Sunday, looking in Mark 12, Jesus is teaching, and an interesting thing kind of comes up where Jeff showed these two kind of contrasts of these two paragraphs right beside each other, where Jesus is saying, watch out for the teachings of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, because they just have this sense of like, adore me and, you know, make me feel important, and this is what I'm about, and I require, you know, a certain place in the synagogue and in the streets, and everybody has to honor me. And then he contrasts that right away, and Mark contrasts that right away with this widow who seemed very poor and gave very little, and Jesus honors that instead. And this interesting contrast that happens between those that actually should be the ones honoring others, and the one who kind of had nothing. Jesus says, actually, that's the example to follow.
Yeah.
And what really jumped out at me right away through this sermon was Jeff asked a rhetorical question, and then he answered it himself, which maybe you aren't supposed to do in your sermon writing. But he said, "Is this story about money?"
Yeah.
And that first part, no, it's not about money. Second part, yeah, it's about money. And as Jeff kind of like, you know, challenged us through it, he said, yes, it's about money. And then he went on to say why it's about money. And then at the end of all of that, he said, it's not about money. It's not about money.
So it is, but it isn't. But that's true of a lot of Jesus' lessons in a way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's true of any kind of teaching based on an illustration or a metaphor. It's about this, but it's also about much more.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that, because I think it's too often easy to read that passage and go, okay, this is speaking to how much I should give the church.
Yeah.
And I would say, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not. It's really speaking to our predisposition or our heart attitude or motivation towards, and like Jeff said, trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, like, how often have we maybe tried to self-justify how much we give by going, well, I'm not very rich. Well, actually, I am.
Yeah.
Like nowhere did in the story is Jesus and the disciples sitting around going, rich person. Like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that thought of like, you know, he asked the question, is this about money?
Yes.
And my immediate answer is, well, no.
Right.
And then he answered, well, yes. And it is about money, especially in this second half, because in the first half it's about people who actually probably were quite wealthy, and they still required honor from others. and in some ways that should have been flipped on its head. But the second part of that account was very much about money, and even in some of our discussion about it, one of the people kept using the word percentages. Well, this is about percentages and stuff like. Yeah, but I think even if you're giving a large percentage of what you earn or what you have or whatever it is, I think you can still be mastered by that. Because Jesus very clearly says, like, it takes zero money at all or very little money at all to be mastered by money. It's about what is your faith, what is your trust, what is your hope in. Is it in that sense of security that money is actually bringing to you? And somebody who is actually, giving very little or giving a lot, in both of those instances could actually be not mastered by money, and always maybe trying to seek more ways to be more generous, either with their money or what we believe, like something that we've been challenged through in our staff time, and something that we've talked about, I think, in church as well too, is it's not just about money. It's about time. It's about the people around you. It's about your energy. It's about your resources. It's about what you've been given. Like we use the term resources, and that includes money, but that includes a lot of other things too, right? Yeah. So is this story about money? Yes. No. Right? It's not ultimately about money. The ultimate is, like you said, that, God is challenging that sense of trust in us, right?
Absolutely. And I kind of love, and this isn't a great, it's probably not the best illustration, but when Jesus talks about the parable of what we often call the talents, right?
Yeah.
And I know the talent was a term for money, but I just love that it's also a talent, because
sometimes we get confused by that,
right? And
I can juggle,
right? Yeah, but I think that bears consideration, right? What is our talent that God has given us? Yeah. That resource that can be, maybe it's study or reasoning or creativity in the arts or humor or just presence, right? All of those other things that we excel at, and how are we going to use that for kingdom building work?
Think about one of the guys in our church who loves to do woodworking, and spends half of his year making toy cars that are given away at our Christmas toy drive, right? Like, that's a talent, right?
Absolutely.
In both terms as well, too, because it's him giving up resources, but also, like, he actually has a talent and a knack for that, and he's really good at it. So
they're beautiful, right? Yeah. It's not like anyone, like, if I built a wooden toy car for someone, they'd be like, what is this, firewood? Like, it wouldn't be a gift. But yet when someone takes that talent and uses it, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's about money, but it's about so much more.
Yeah.
And so it's always good for us to consider what are we putting our trust in, but what do we have to offer? Yeah. Because we all have something to give back, because we've received it from God, we're going to give it back to him.
Yeah. And in the same respect, like, it's something greater, but at the same time, it's worth the personal challenge to say, you know what? When it comes to my money, am I being mastered as well?
Yeah.
Am I giving all that I can? Because that's specifically at a very surface level. That is also what Jesus is saying about this woman, that she gave, I don't want to say foolishly, but gave out of her poverty, which could look foolishly, especially if these people are very wealthy and they're actually giving a large amount out of their generosity. And like that I think is a whole other discussion in and of itself, but that we need to still be challenged to say, am I being mastered by this, or is God giving me opportunities to be more generous? And then after that, be even a little bit more generous. And after that, maybe even a little bit more generous after that.
Well, and I think in this case, the other side of that is the care and support needed of a community. Because often, I know I sometimes am, we're tempted towards not giving because we need to be self-reliant.
Yeah.
And yet she gave in such a way that made her absolutely reliant and dependent on others.
That's true, yeah.
And I think Jesus, well, I think what the early church then came around recognizing is that, you know what, we are going to support one another.
Yeah.
And you see that bear out, and actually could and does bear out in churches today too.
Yeah.
Where we're coming around one another and when people have need, and so there's a trust thing that she shows there. Yes, in God, yes, in His work, but also just in the community that she has around her.
Yeah. To know that, you know, only a few years later that there's then this feeding program that started, and that widows are actually very much recipients of it, and that's actually important to the New Testament church, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. And I wonder how much the disciples who saw that woman give that day kind of went, if giving is the right thing, well then how do we, like, I wonder how connected those are, and I think they probably are connected a whole lot.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see how the church took care of one another.
Yeah.
And still does today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I pray that we would be continuing that community, not just within the walls of Lakeview, but within West Kelowna, that we're taking care of our neighbors and our
absolutely,
you know, random whoever, you know, pay it forward, all of those things, right? Like you have no idea the impact that we sometimes have when people are surprised by grace in their day-to-day living.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry, you seem like you had a funny thought that you're going to share.
No, I don't know that I did. Maybe. I'm also realizing I'm very distracted, but loving that, like, we've got sparrows flying around, and there's just all these signs of spring around us.
Yeah.
I don't know if my knees are on camera,
shorts.
but I am definitely just enjoying the fact that the calves can breathe again. You know, I'm surprised there's not people swimming out here. I just keep looking out expecting to see someone.
That's true.
Because, you know, apparently, what do they call that? Dipping. It's all the rage right now
That's
in
true.
the 50-plus community.
That's true.
It's apparently
Good for
really
your brain,
helpful
I guess.
well, I hear it's really good for joints.
Yeah.
It relieves joint pain and other things. But anyways,
Yeah.
so nothing related to the sermon. No funny thoughts there.
So, considering all these things, we want to encourage you to be people of generosity and to hear the words of Jesus and take them to heart, and to go and live accordingly. And so, with all of this, we want to invite you to the women's gathering of Games Night this Friday night, March 31st, and it's going to be exciting and fun. And bring a snack and a board game to share with others. And unless you're into, you know, bringing your own and sitting in the corner and.
But then you're probably not coming out to a games night.
Probably not your thing then.
And come, even if you don't have a favorite game, you just want to come and be with people. Come and be with people.
Somebody else might bring a really good game that you might enjoy as well too. So.
That's half the fun, right?
Yeah.
Is coming out, getting together with friends, and learning something new.
Yeah,
so.
trying a different game.
Yeah, Friday night.
And then Saturday afternoon, Chris, where are we headed?
We are headed to the lovely Potter's House Community Church for a parenting seminar on having not just the talk with your kids, but 1,000 little talks with your kids. And the topic is helping parents navigate the world of conversing about sexuality with our children. And so that'll be 1 to 4 p.m. Hopefully you've signed up already, but come anyways. We'll sign you up at the door, even if you haven't pre-registered. There'll be room. And that's for parents of kids or youth who are feeling maybe out of their depth, or just want to realize, hey, we're all having those talks with our kids, and want to just develop some community around that. So Potter's House Community Church, 1 to 4 p.m. on Saturday.
Yeah. And then a week from Friday is Good Friday. We're meeting at Emmanuel Church at 10 a.m. on Good Friday. That's the 7th. And then kind of enjoying our weekend by finishing it off Sunday morning with a wonderful Easter resurrection celebration. And so we invite you to that, just to come gather at 10 o'clock and just hear of the goodness of God, that Jesus is alive. So.
Absolutely. And if I can real quick plug a couple upcoming youth things, because at the end of April, and official details are going to be rolling out next week, but we've got another West Kelowna-wide youth event coming together at Emmanuel Church, and that's the last Tuesday of April. And then May Camp registration is out there. And so if you've got, we're going to be down at Green Bay for the May long weekend. Love to have our youth part of that. And registration, just email me if you want to get the registration form for that. I'll send it to you. It's all online registration, and that's part of it. That's partnering. Both of those are fun things because they're partnering with other youth ministries from around. And the West Kelowna one's obviously Youth Ministries of West Kelowna, but then May Camp is the NAB Youth Ministries and more of the BC Association. Yeah. So it's a really cool events for that.
Lots of fun to be had.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So thanks for hanging out with us. Hopefully you're at some point, this week or in the coming weeks, getting outside, maybe even, starting to till a little garden or do a little outside stuff or just go for a walk or a bike ride. We encourage you to just enjoy all these things and enjoy the blessings that God has given and use your resources accordingly.
Mm-hmm.